Rich Cowboy bought the bride no one wanted, then froze when he saw her face. The twin suns were slowly rising over the red hills when Daniel Cross finished checking the fences. The wind carried dust across the wide plains, and faraway metal windmills turned slowly, powered by both wind and hidden energy cores buried under the soil. This frontier world looked like the old Wild West, but technology lived quietly beneath its surface. Daniel guided his horse toward the main ranch house. Some people used hover vehicles or fast transport bikes, but Daniel preferred riding. It helped him think. He was one of the richest ranch owners on the colony. People respected him, but they also found him distant. He spoke little, avoided crowds, and rarely attended town gatherings. Some said he was lonely. Others believed he simply liked silence. The ranch itself was massive. Herds of engineered cattle moved across the fields, watched by floating drones that stayed high in the sky like silent birds. Automated barns opened and closed by themselves. Yet Daniel still did most work by hand whenever possible. That morning, his communication tablet blinked with a new message. Bond marriage arrival confirmed? Daniel paused. He had signed the agreement weeks earlier. On frontier colonies, bond marriages helped settlers survive. Many people came from distant worlds looking for stability. Some ranchers chose partners based on reputation or beauty. Daniel had chosen differently. He had selected the woman no one else wanted. The memory of the selection hall returned to him. Dozens of profiles had appeared on a screen, each with descriptions and ratings left by previous sponsors. One name stood alone, marked with warnings and rejections. Alara, no clear history, few details, multiple refusals. People whispered she was strange. That was exactly why Daniel had chosen her. He finished his ride and prepared to leave for the arrival station. The transport ship would land soon. Dust rose behind him as he rode toward town. The settlement of Iron Ridge stood in the middle of the desert like an old Western outpost. Wooden buildings mixed with metal towers. Neon signs blinked beside swinging saloon doors. Colonists moved through the streets wearing both cowboy hats and advanced gear. When Daniel arrived, several ranchers watched him with curiosity. "You really going through with it?" one man asked with a laugh. Daniel nodded calmly. "Didn't you read the reports?" another added. "Nobody wants her. Something's wrong with that woman." Daniel adjusted his hat. Maybe nobody took the time to look properly. The others exchanged glances, unsure how to respond. A loud sound filled the air as the transport ship descended from the sky. Its engines glowed blue, slowing the massive vessel until it hovered above the landing field. Dust spread outward like a storm. People gathered, eager to see the new arrivals. The loading ramp lowered slowly. One by one, travelers stepped down, families, workers, hopeful settlers. Then finally, a single figure appeared at the top of the ramp. She wore a long cloak that moved gently in the wind. Her face was covered by a thin veil. Daniel felt something shift inside him, though he could not explain why. She walked down carefully, each step calm and controlled. When she reached the ground, she looked around as if studying everything. An officer checked her identification and then gestured toward Daniel. She approached him slowly. "Daniel Cross?" she asked softly. Her voice was calm, almost musical. "Yes," he replied. She hesitated, then lifted her veil. Daniel froze. Her face was beautiful but unusual. Soft, glowing patterns traced across her skin like faint silver lines. Her eyes were deep blue, almost shining in the sunlight. She did not look frightening, only different, like someone carrying a hidden story. For a moment, Daniel forgot to speak. Alara watched him carefully, waiting for the reaction she had seen many times before. Disappointment, fear, rejection, but Daniel only nodded. "Welcome to Iron Ridge," he said quietly. Something changed in her expression, surprise mixed with relief. They walked toward his horse and transport wagon. Some people nearby stared openly. Others whispered behind their hands. Daniel ignored them. The ride back to the ranch was quiet at first. The wide desert stretched endlessly around them. "You knew about my appearance?" Alara asked finally. "I read what little was written," Daniel answered. "But words don't show truth." She looked at him, unsure what to say. Most people asked questions immediately. Most wanted explanations. Daniel did not. As they traveled, small ranch drones flew overhead. When one passed close to Alara, its lights flickered strangely before stabilizing again. Daniel noticed but said nothing. The ranch came into view, a large house surrounded by fields, barns, and solar towers. Alara stopped walking when she saw it. "It is big," she said softly. "It's home," Daniel replied. Inside, the house was simple despite his wealth. Wooden floors, old furniture, and a kitchen filled with natural light. Alara moved carefully through the rooms, touching nothing at first. She seemed unsure where she belonged. "You can choose any room," Daniel said. "No rush," she nodded. Later that evening, they sat on the porch watching the sun set beyond the horizon. The sky turned orange and purple. "You must wonder why no one wanted me," she said quietly. Daniel shrugged slightly. "People fear what they don't understand." She lowered her eyes. "I did not expect kindness." He did not respond immediately. Words were not his strength. "You're safe here," he said finally. For the first time since arriving, Alara allowed herself to relax. But as darkness settled, distant lights appeared on the horizon, small moving shapes that did not belong to the ranch. Daniel noticed them instantly. Visitors were coming, and something told him they were not friendly. He stood slowly, watching the distant movement while the wind grew colder around them. The quiet life he had known was about to change. The cold desert wind moved slowly across the ranch as Daniel stood on the porch, watching the distant lights approach. They were still far away, small dots moving across the horizon, but he knew they were vehicles. Alara stood beside him, her expression calm but tense. "Do you expect visitors?" she asked quietly. Daniel shook his head. "Not this late." The ranch's security drones slowly activated above the barn, their soft lights glowing in the darkness. They hovered silently, waiting for instructions. Daniel did not like trouble, but he always prepared for it. The lights stopped moving after a few minutes, disappearing behind a ridge far from the ranch. Daniel relaxed slightly but remained alert. "It could be travelers passing by," he said, though he did not fully believe it. Alara did not answer. She watched the horizon a little longer before turning toward the house. Inside, she tried to help prepare dinner. She moved carefully around the kitchen, learning where everything was placed. Daniel noticed how quickly she learned. She watched his movements and copied them quietly. "You don't need to work tonight," he said. "I want to," she replied gently. "It helps me feel normal." Daniel nodded. He understood that feeling more than he wanted to admit. During dinner, they spoke little, but the silence felt different now, less uncomfortable. Outside, the ranch animals moved calmly, and the distant windmills turned slowly. Later that night, Alara walked outside alone. The twin moons were bright, lighting the land with silver light. She stepped into the open field, closing her eyes for a moment. The ground beneath her feet seemed to hum softly. Unknown to her, the ranch's hidden energy systems reacted to her presence. Small lights blinked along the fence lines, and the main power core adjusted its output slightly. The machines did not malfunction, they simply responded as if recognizing her. Daniel watched from the doorway. He had seen the lights flicker earlier when a drone passed her. Now the entire ranch seemed aware of her existence. He stepped outside. "You feel something?" he asked. Alara opened her eyes slowly. "Yes," she admitted. "This land, it has strong energy, old systems, deep connections." Daniel crossed his arms. "You understand machines." "A little," she said carefully. He did not push further. The next morning, they began working together. Daniel showed her how to check fences, feed animals, and manage the irrigation systems. She learned faster than any new worker he had ever trained. When one of the automated gates stopped working, Alara stepped closer to inspect it. Without touching anything directly, she closed her eyes briefly. The gate suddenly reset and opened smoothly. Daniel raised an eyebrow. "You fixed it." She looked unsure. "Maybe it fixed itself." But Daniel knew better. By afternoon, rumors had already reached town. A neighbor named Cole arrived on a hover bike, removing his helmet with a worried expression. "I heard your bride arrived," Cole said, glancing toward the house. "And I heard strange stories." Daniel remained calm. "People like stories." Cole lowered his voice. "Be careful. Some outsiders came asking questions earlier. They showed official badges but didn't say who they worked for." Daniel's expression hardened slightly. "Did they mention her name?" Cole nodded. "Yes." Alara stood near the doorway, listening silently. After Cole left, the ranch felt different. The peaceful atmosphere carried tension beneath it. That evening, Alara finally spoke openly. "You should know the truth," she said. Daniel listened without interrupting. "I come from a hybrid lineage," she explained slowly. "My people can connect with advanced systems. Some call it a gift, others call it dangerous." Daniel leaned against the porch railing. And the people looking for you? They believe I belong to them, she said softly. They want control, not partnership. He watched her carefully. Did you do something wrong? No, she said immediately. I only refuse to be used. The wind moved her hair gently as she spoke. Daniel nodded once. That was enough for him. Then you stay, he said simply. Alara blinked, surprised by how easily he accepted her. You do not fear me? He shook his head. Everyone carries something others don't understand. For the first time, she smiled slightly. Over the next few days, they worked side by side. Their communication became easier. Daniel began to notice small things, how she laughed quietly when animals behaved strangely, how she watched sunsets like they were rare treasures. At night, however, drones appeared again far away, watching from the sky. Daniel upgraded the ranch defenses quietly. He placed motion sensors along the ridge and adjusted the patrol routes of security bots. Alara noticed. You expect trouble, she said. I expect preparation, he answered. One evening, while repairing a solar tower together, Alara slipped slightly. Daniel caught her arm instinctively. For a moment they stood very close, surprised by the sudden contact. Neither spoke, but something unspoken passed between them, trust growing slowly. Later that night, the ranch alarm activated. A sharp sound cut through the silence. Daniel grabbed his jacket and stepped outside. 3 unknown drones hovered near the boundary fence. Their design was sleek and unfamiliar. Alara joined him, her face serious. They found me, she whispered. The drones scanned the area briefly, then retreated without attacking. Daniel exhaled slowly. They're testing us, he said. Alara looked toward the dark sky. I did not want to bring danger here. Daniel shook his head. You didn't bring it, he said firmly. They did. The twin moons rose higher, casting long shadows across the land. The peaceful ranch life was changing, and both of them knew it. But instead of fear, something stronger was growing, a partnership built on quiet loyalty. And as they stood together watching the sky, they realized the real fight had not yet begun. The ranch had never felt so quiet. Even the wind seemed careful as it moved across the wide land. Daniel stood near the barn early in the morning, checking the security systems again. He had barely slept after the unknown drones appeared during the night. Something was coming. He could feel it. Alara walked toward him slowly, carrying a small tool kit. The soft light of sunrise touched the silver patterns on her skin, making them glow faintly. You did not rest, she said gently. Daniel shrugged. Sleep comes later. She watched him for a moment as if trying to understand the way he carried responsibility without complaint. I am sorry, she said quietly. He looked at her. For what? For bringing trouble to your home. Daniel shook his head firmly. You didn't bring it. Trouble finds people whether they want it or not. Alara lowered her eyes but said nothing more. They continued working together in silence, repairing fences and adjusting the automated irrigation system. Every sound felt louder than usual, the creaking of metal, the distant movement of cattle, the quiet hum of machines. By afternoon, the sky darkened slightly as a large transport ship appeared far above the horizon. Daniel saw it first. It moved slowly but with purpose, descending toward the open desert near his ranch. Unlike the colony transport ships, this one was dark gray with sharp edges, designed for authority rather than comfort. Alara froze when she saw it. They came, she whispered. Daniel placed his hand on the railing, watching calmly. A smaller vehicle separated from the ship and began moving toward the ranch. Within minutes, 3 figures stepped out of the transport and approached the main gate. They wore official uniforms and carried advanced equipment. Daniel walked forward, meeting them halfway. One of them stepped ahead, a tall woman with cold eyes. Daniel Cross, she said. We represent a private corporate authority. We are here for Alara. Daniel's expression did not change. She stays here. This is not a request, the woman replied. She belongs to our organization. Alara stood behind him, silent but tense. Daniel crossed his arms. People don't belong to organizations. The agent's eyes narrowed slightly. You do not understand the situation. She is extremely valuable and potentially dangerous. Alara stepped forward slowly. I am not dangerous, she said calmly. The agents ignored her words. We will return with legal authority, the woman said. Do not interfere. They turned and walked back to their vehicle, leaving a heavy silence behind them. Daniel watched until they disappeared. When he turned back, Alara looked shaken. They will not stop, she said quietly. Then we prepare, Daniel answered. That evening, the ranch became a place of careful planning. Daniel activated old defense systems he had not used in years. Hidden sensors turned on, protective barriers powered up along the outer fence. Alara helped, using her unique connection to understand the systems faster than any technician could. "You move like you already know this place," Daniel said. She smiled slightly. "Machines speak in patterns, I listen." As night fell, tension grew heavier. Alara sat outside alone, staring at the stars. Memories of her past returned, people watching her with fear, laboratories filled with cold lights, voices calling her a tool instead of a person. Daniel joined her quietly. "You can still leave," she said. "They only want me." He shook his head immediately. "This is your home now." The words surprised both of them. She looked at him carefully, searching for doubt. There was none. A soft warmth filled her chest, something she had not felt in a long time. Suddenly, the alarm sounded. Bright red lights flashed across the ranch. Multiple vehicles approached quickly from different directions. "They're back," Daniel said, standing up. Hover drones descended from the sky, scanning the land. A voice echoed through loudspeakers. "Alara, surrender peacefully. Resistance will result in force." Daniel moved toward the control panel, activating defensive drones. They rose into the air like silent guardians. Alara stood beside him, fear visible but controlled. "I do not want anyone hurt," she said. "Then help me stop them without fighting," Daniel replied. The corporate agents advanced toward the fence, trying to disable the security systems. Energy pulses flashed in the darkness. Daniel used the terrain to his advantage, guiding the ranch drones to block their movements. He knew every hill, every hidden path, but the agents were prepared. One drone broke through the defense line, flying toward the house. Alara stepped forward instinctively. Her eyes closed and the silver patterns on her skin brightened slightly. The ranch's power systems reacted instantly. Lights surged, machines synchronized, and the attacking drone suddenly lost control, dropping harmlessly to the ground. Daniel watched in awe. "You didn't even touch it," she opened her eyes slowly. "I only asked it to rest." More agents advanced, but suddenly the ground sensors activated automatically, creating barriers that forced them to stop. Alara's connection with the systems grew stronger with every moment. "I can feel the entire ranch," she whispered. "It responds to intention." Daniel nodded. "Then let's show them this is not their place." Together, they defended the ranch without causing harm. The agents realized they could not win easily. After several tense minutes, their leader signaled retreat. The vehicles pulled back slowly, disappearing into the darkness once again. Silence returned. Alara's strength faded and she nearly lost balance. Daniel caught her gently. "You pushed yourself too hard," he said. She breathed slowly, trying to recover. "I did not want to fight," she said. "You didn't," he replied. "You protected." They stood together under the moonlight, both realizing something had changed. The ranch was no longer just land. It had become a shared home worth defending. And the bond between them was no longer just an agreement. It was becoming something real. Morning arrived slowly after the long night. The ranch looked peaceful again, but Daniel knew that peace was fragile. The wind moved across the land, carrying dust and sunlight over the wide fields. The cattle wandered calmly, unaware of how close danger had come. Alara stood near the fence, watching the horizon. Her face looked tired but calm. The silver patterns on her skin were faint again, no longer glowing as they had during the confrontation. Daniel walked toward her, carrying 2 cups of warm tea. "You should rest," he said, offering her one. She accepted it with a small smile. "Rest feels strange when everything is uncertain," he nodded. "That feeling doesn't go away, you just learn to live with it." They stood side by side, silent for a moment. After the failed attempt to take Alara, the ranch had become the center of attention. Messages from the colony council arrived overnight requesting explanations. Neighbors were curious, worried, or quietly supportive. The corporate group would not give up easily. Daniel understood that. "They will come again," Alara said softly. "Yes," he answered. "But next time we will not stand alone." Later that day, several local ranchers arrived. Cole was among them, along with others who had once doubted Daniel's decision. "We heard what happened," Cole said, "and we saw the skylights last night. Those outsiders aren't welcome here." Another rancher nodded. "If they come again, they face all of us." Alara looked surprised by their support. Daniel simply thanked them with a nod. Frontier life created strong bonds when people faced common threats. Together they repaired damaged fences and strengthened the ranch defenses. The work brought a sense of unity. As evening approached, a message arrived from the colony council. They requested a public hearing. The corporate agents had filed an official claim, accusing Alara of being dangerous technology that must be controlled. The accusation made Daniel's jaw tighten. "She is not an object," he said firmly. Alara touched his arm gently. "We must face them openly." The next morning they traveled to Iron Ridge together. The town hall was filled with colonists. Some watched with curiosity, others with suspicion. The corporate agents stood on one side, confident and cold. The council leader raised a hand for silence. "We are here to decide whether Alara may remain freely on this colony," he announced. The lead agent stepped forward first. "This individual possesses abilities that could threaten infrastructure stability," she said. "She must be taken for controlled study." Murmurs spread through the crowd. Daniel stepped forward next. "She has done nothing but help," he said calmly. "She repaired systems, protected land, and caused no harm." The agent smirked slightly. "You speak from emotion, not evidence." Alara slowly moved forward. Her voice was quiet but clear. "I do not wish to control anyone, I only wish to live freely." Some people softened at her words, but others remained unsure. The council leader looked thoughtful. "Can you demonstrate your abilities safely?" he asked. Alara hesitated, then nodded. Outside, near the town's aging power generator, she stood still. The machine had struggled for years, often failing during storms. She closed her eyes. The silver patterns on her skin glowed softly, not bright or frightening, but gentle like moonlight. The generator hummed louder, stabilizing smoothly. Lights across town grew brighter and steadier. Gasps filled the air. She stepped back slowly, opening her eyes again. "I do not take control," she said. "I listen and help systems become balanced." The council members exchanged glances. The corporate agents looked frustrated. After a long discussion, the council leader stood again. "Alara is recognized as a free citizen of this colony," he announced. "No organization may claim ownership over her." Relief spread through the crowd. The agents protested, but their authority ended there. Without legal support, they were forced to leave. Outside the hall, Daniel and Alara stood quietly, absorbing what had just happened. "You are free," he said. She looked at him, her eyes warm. "I have never truly felt free before." They returned to the ranch as the suns began to set. The sky turned orange and gold, stretching endlessly above the wide land. Life slowly returned to normal. Days passed peacefully. Alara grew more confident, laughing more often and moving freely around the ranch. She planted new crops using both science and instinct. The land responded well, growing stronger than before. Daniel noticed how the ranch felt more alive. One evening they sat on the porch watching the horizon. "You changed everything," he said quietly. She shook her head. "No, you gave me a place to belong. That changed me." He smiled slightly. The bond marriage that began as a simple agreement had turned into something deeper: trust, partnership, and quiet affection. They did not rush their feelings. Instead, they allowed them to grow naturally, like the slow turning of seasons. In the distance, the twin suns dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with soft colors. Alara leaned back in her chair, peaceful. "For the first time," she said softly, "I am not the bride no one wanted." Daniel looked at her. "You were never unwanted," he replied. "People just didn't understand what they were seeing." She smiled, and the ranch felt warmer somehow. Together they watched the stars appear one by one, ready to build a future neither had expected. A life where the frontier was not just about survival, but about connection, acceptance, and hope. And under the endless sky of the frontier world, a rich cowboy and the bride no one wanted began a new chapter, not defined by fear or rumors, but by trust and belonging.